Okay, so we have question 1. WHW. What does that stand for in the goal setting process? The 3 types of goal, the W, the H, the W. Then what kind of focus does each one of those create? Question 2, what kind of focus does each one of those create? And we've got O, P, M as the clues. O, P, M. Question 3, what is it that makes us stressed? Why do we get stressed if we only set outcome goals? What is it about outcome goals that can stress us out? If we focus on our outcomes, why do we get stressed? Question 4, what is it about the process that helps us relax? What is it about the process that helps us relax? Name the 3 types of motivation. That's question 5. And your clue was Z or Z, as most of you guys will say, in and X. Z, in, and X. Question 6. Which motivation won't help us at all? Which motivation won't help us at all? Question 7. Which motivation can be good, but maybe will eventually run out? Question 6. Which motivation won't help us at all? Question 7. Which motivation can be good, can help us, but eventually may run out? And then question 8. Question 8. Which motivation will help us deal with adversity? Which motivation will help us deal with adversity and is the most powerful? Which motivation will help us deal with adversity and is the most powerful? And question 9. When we have written down our goals, how should we stay connected to them? What should we create? What should we be doing with our goals so that we can stay connected? And every day we remember why we're doing what we're doing. Okay, so there we go. That's the 9 questions. My phone number, if you don't have it, you guys should have it anyway. So please text me a picture of your answers to that phone number or upload it into your coach now. So text me a picture of your answers to that quiz, upload it into coach now. And when I've received a few, let me see if I got the first one on my phone yet. Okay, so someone wants the questions in the chat. That's going to be tricky for me. 3 types of goal. That was question 1. Question 2. What focus do they give? And the clue for that was, okay, danger of focusing only on outcome. Okay, why does process help you relax? 3 types of motivation. You guys can probably tell I never did a touch typing course. Okay, what is the least desired motivation. What motivation is good but runs out? And what motivation prepares you for adversity and is the most desired? And then finally, when you have written all 3 stages of goal setting, what do you do? Okay, awesome. So first of all, now we've got that done, loads of texts coming through. And hopefully if you're not sending it on text, you send it on Coach now. But again, this is a test for me. I need to know how good a teacher or a coach I am. I need to know if you guys are really understanding this, because this is more important than your golf swing or your golf scores, because this lays the foundation. If you don't develop this behavior, if you don't develop this understanding of how to set goals, where to place your mind and where to focus, if you never get that, you can have the best golf swing in the world, but eventually that's only going to take you so far. So if we can develop the desired mental habits, or as I would call them, the psychological characteristics of excellence, if we can develop the understanding of them and then be applying them at KOHR on a regular basis, that's really going to help you take steps towards your goals and dreams. So right now, all of this work supersedes the golf swing. These are the things that you need to be valuing, and you need to be working really, really hard to develop and to evolve. So now that we've done that, I'm going to share a video with you. So just I'll quickly share my screen. Okay, can everyone see this? Okay. Someone can just come off mute and just say that they can see it.
I can see it.
Awesome. Can you let me know if you can hear it? Okay.
Yeah, I can hear it.
You can hear it. Okay. So guys, this is a 12-minute video. I've shown this to many academy students in the past, but never is it more important than showing this to you guys. The academies that I've worked at in the past, golf tends to be number 1 and academics tend to be number 2. And a lot of students are stressed from golf, they're not so stressed from their academics. Now, what I've noticed since really moving from the Florida academies and supporting them to moving north to Boston and helping you guys, is you guys almost have double the amount of pressure, because you've got pressure for your golf, but you've also got pressure for your academics. So when you watch this video, think about the things that we've been learning in this is the 4th week now of the winter program. Think of the things we've been learning in the first 4 weeks of the winter program. Think of what I'm asking you to do, and then think of what this guy's asking you to do. Just because I'm a coach, it doesn't make me right. So I want you to feel very confident and very comfortable that the information I'm giving you is not just my opinion. I want you to understand that I've read books and I've read research papers, and I've spoken to some very, very, very smart people, much like this guy. This is a very, very important message, because I think this will help you buy into the concepts a little more that I'm teaching you, and really commit to completing these tasks that I'm asking you to complete. Not sort of kind of do these tasks, but then go hit 1,000 balls in the simulator. I really want you to understand, and I want your families and parents to understand I think what we're doing now and this winter program and how we're shaping it, I think it lays the foundation for the whole year. This is going to help you hit the ground running in April if you can commit to it. But like I said, you don't always have to take my word for it. It's very important to listen to other people and other experts. So let's watch this video. He talks very fast, even faster and harder to understand than me. So pay attention. Please take notes. After, if you want to send me a text message with your notes, you can. If you want to send some feedback in the Coach Now app on what you learned from this video, you can. If you want to share it with your parents, you absolutely should. And this is a book that maybe you might want to buy or they might want to buy. So watch this video, 12 minutes, and then we can have a group discussion about this and we can start working on our vision boards.
When I was 7 years old and my sister was just 5 years old, we were playing on top of a bunk bed. I was 2 years older than her now, but at the time that meant she had to do everything that I wanted to do, and I wanted to play war. So we were up on top of our bunk beds, and on one side of the bunk bed, I had put out all my G.I. Joe soldiers and weaponry, and on the other side were all my sister's Milos and ponies and ready for a cavalry charge. There are differing accounts of what actually happened that afternoon, but since my sister is not here with us today, let me tell you the true story, which is my sister is a little bit on the clumsy side. And somehow, without any help or push from her older brother at all, suddenly Amy disappeared off the top of the bunk bed and landed with this crash on the floor. And I nervously peered over the side of the bed to see what had befallen my fallen sister and saw that she had landed painfully on her hands and knees on all fours on the ground. I was nervous because my parents had charged me with making sure that my sister and I played as safely and as quietly as possible. And seeing as how I had accidentally broken Amy's arm just 1 week before, heroically pushing her out of the way of an oncoming imaginary sniper bullet, for which I have yet to be thanked. I was trying as hard as I could. She didn't even see it coming. I was trying as hard as I could to be on my best behavior, and I saw my sister's face this wail of pain and suffering and surprise, threatening to erupt from her mouth and threatening to wake my parents from the long winter's nap for which they had settled. So I did the only thing my little frantic 7-year-old brain could think to do to avert this tragedy. If you have children, you've seen this hundreds of times before. I said, Amy, wait, don't cry, don't cry. Did you see how you landed? No human lands on all fours like that. Amy, I think this means you're a unicorn. Now that was cheating because there's nothing in the world my sister would want more than not to be Amy, the hurt 5-year-old little sister, but Amy, the special unicorn. Of course, this was an option that was open to her brain at no point in the past. And you could see on my poor, manipulated sister's face conflict as her little brain attempted to devote resources to feeling the pain and suffering surprise she just experienced, or contemplating her newfound identity as a unicorn. And the latter won out. Instead of crying, instead of ceasing our play, instead of waking my parents with all the negative consequences that would have ensued for me, instead, a smile spread across her face, and she scrambled right back up onto the bunk bed with all the grace of a baby unicorn, with one broken leg. What we stumbled across at this tender age of just 5 and 7, we had no idea at the time, was something that was going to be at the vanguard of a scientific revolution occurring 2 decades later in the way that we look at the human brain. What we had stumbled across is something called positive psychology, which is the reason that I'm here today and the reason that I wake up every morning. When I first started talking about this research outside of academia, out with companies and schools, the very first thing they said to never do is to start your talk with a graph. The very first thing I wanted to do is start my talk with a graph. This graph looks boring, but this graph is the reason that I get excited and wake up every morning. And this graph doesn't even mean anything. It's fake data. What we found is if I got this data back studying you here in the room, I would be thrilled because there's very clearly a trend that's going on there, and that means that I can get published, which is all that really matters. The fact that there's one weird red dot that's up above the curve, there's one weird in the room, you know who you are, I saw you earlier. That's no problem. That's no problem, as most of you know, because I can just delete that dot. I can delete that dot because that's clearly a measurement error, and we know that's a measurement error because it's messing up my data. So one of the very first things that we teach people in economics and statistics and business and psychology courses is how, in a statistically valid way, do we eliminate the weirdos? How do we eliminate the outliers? So that we can find the line of best fit, which is fantastic if I'm trying to find out how many Advil the average person should be taking, too. But if I'm interested in potential, If I'm interested in your potential or for happiness or productivity or energy or creativity, what we're doing is we're creating the cult of the average with science. If I ask a question like how fast can a child learn how to read in a classroom, scientists change the answer to how fast does the average child learn how to read in that classroom? And then we tailor the class right towards the average. Now, if you fall below the average on this curve, then psychologists get thrilled because that means you're either depressed or you have a disorder or hopefully both. We're hoping for both because our business model is if you come into a therapy session with one problem, we want to make sure you leave knowing you have 10. So you'll keep coming back over and over again. We'll go back into your childhood if necessary, but eventually what we want to do is to make you normal again. But normal is merely average. And what I posit and what positive psychology posits is that if we study what is merely average, we will remain merely average. Then instead of deleting those positive outliers, what I intentionally do is come into a population like this one and says, why? Why is it that some of you are so high above the curve in terms of your intellectual ability, athletic ability, musical ability, creativity, energy levels, your resiliency in the face of challenge, your sense of humor, whatever it is, instead of deleting you, what I want to do is study you. Because maybe we can glean information, not just how to move people up to the average, but how we can move the entire average up at our companies and schools worldwide. The reason this graph is important to me is when I turn on the news, it seems like the majority of the information is not positive. In fact, it's negative. Most of it's about murder, corruption, diseases, natural disasters. And very quickly, my brain starts to think that's the accurate ratio of negative to positive in the world. What that's doing is creating something called the medical school syndrome, which if you know people who have been to medical school during the first year of medical training, as you read through a list of all the symptoms and diseases that could happen, suddenly you realize you have all of them. I have a brother-in-law named Bobo, which is a whole nother story. Bobo married Amy the unicorn. Bobo called me on the phone from Yale Medical School. And Bobo said, Sean, I have leprosy. Which even at Yale is extraordinarily rare. But I had no idea how to console poor Bobo because he had just gotten over an entire week of menopause. See, what we're finding is not necessarily the reality that shapes us, but the lens through which your brain views the world that shapes your reality. And if we can change the lens, not only can we change your happiness, we can change every single educational and business outcome at the same time. When I applied to Harvard, I applied on a dare. I didn't expect to get in, and my family had no money for college. When I got a military scholarship 2 weeks later, they allowed me to go. Suddenly, something that wasn't even a possibility became a reality. When I went there, I assumed everyone else would see it as a privilege as well, that they'd be excited to be there. Even if you're in a classroom full of people smarter than you, you'd be happy just to be in that classroom, which is what I felt. But what I found there is while some people experienced that, when I graduated after my 4 years and then spent the next 8 years living in the dorms with the students, Harvard asked me to, wasn't that guy. But what happened, I was an officer of Harvard to counsel students through the difficult 4 years. And what I found in my research, my teaching is that these students, no matter how happy they were with their original success of getting into the school, 2 weeks later, their brains were focused not on the privilege of being there, nor on their philosophy or their physics. Their brain was focused on the competition, the workload, the hassles, the stresses, the complaints. When I first went in there, I walked into the freshman dining hall, which is where my friends from Waco, Texas, which is where I grew up. I know some of you have heard of it. When they come to visit me, they look around, they say, this freshman dining hall looks like something out of Hogwarts from the movie Harry Potter, which it does. This is Hogwarts from the movie Harry Potter, and that's Harvard. And when they see this, they say, Sean, why do you waste your time studying happiness at Harvard? Seriously, what does a Harvard student possibly have to be unhappy about? Embedded within that question is the key to understanding the science of happiness. Because what that question assumes is that our external world is predictive of our happiness levels. When in reality, if I know everything about your external world, I can only predict 10% of your long-term happiness. 90% of your long-term happiness is predicted not by the external world, but by the way your brain processes the world. And if we change it, if we change our formula for happiness and success, what we can do is change the way that we can then affect reality. What we found is that only 25% of job successes are predicted by IQ. 75% of job successes are predicted by your optimism levels, your social support, and your ability to see stress as a challenge instead of as a threat. I talked to a boarding school up in New England, probably the most prestigious boarding school, and they said, we already know that. So every year, instead of just teaching our students, we also have a wellness week, and we're so excited. Monday night, we have the world's leading expert coming in to speak about adolescent depression. Tuesday night is school violence and bullying. Wednesday night's eating disorders. Thursday night is illicit drug use. And Friday night, we're trying to decide between risky sex or happiness. I said, that's most people's Friday nights. Which I'm glad you liked, but they did not like that at all. Silence on the phone. And into the silence, I said, I'd be happy to speak at your school, but just, that's not a wellness week. That's a sickness week. What you've done is you've outlined all the negative things that can happen, but not talked about the positive. The absence of disease is not health. Here's how we get to health. We need to reverse the formula for happiness and success. In the past 3 years, I've traveled to 45 different countries, working with schools and companies in the midst of an economic downturn. And what I found is that most companies and schools follow a formula for success, which is this: if I work harder, I'll be more successful. And if I'm more successful, then I'll be happier. That undergirds most of our parenting styles, our managing styles, the way that we motivate our behavior. And the problem is it's scientifically broken and backwards for 2 reasons. First, every time your brain has a success, you just change the goalpost of what success looked like. You got good grades, now you have to get better grades. You got into a good school, now you have to get a better school. You got a good job, now you have to get a better job. You hit your sales target, we're going to change your sales target. And if happiness is on the opposite side of success, your brain never gets there. What we've done is we've pushed happiness over the cognitive horizon as a society. And that's because we think we have to be successful, then we'll be happier. But the real problem is our brains work in the opposite order. If you can raise somebody's level of positivity in the present, then their brain experiences what we now call a happiness advantage, which is your brain at positive performs significantly better than it does at negative, neutral, or stressed. Your intelligence rises, your creativity rises, your energy levels rise. In fact, what we found is that every single business outcome improves. Your brain at positive is 31% more productive than your brain at negative, neutral, or stressed. You're 37% better at sales. Doctors are 19% faster, more accurate at coming up with the correct diagnosis when positive instead of negative, neutral, or stressed, which means we can reverse the formula. If we can find a way of becoming positive in the present, then our brains work even more successfully as we're able to work harder, faster, and more intelligently. What we need to be able to do is to reverse this formula so we can start to see what our brains are actually capable of. Because dopamine, which floods into your system when you're positive, has 2 functions. Not only does it make you happier, it turns on all the learning centers in your brain, allowing you to adapt to the world in a different way. We found that there are ways you can train your brain to be able to become more positive. In just a 2-minute span of time, done for 21 days in a row, we can actually rewire your brain, allowing your brain to actually work more optimistically and more successfully. We've done these things in research now in every single company that I've worked with, getting them to write down 3 new things that they're grateful for 21 days in a row, 3 new things each day. And at the end of that, their brain starts to retain a pattern of scanning the world, not for the negative, but for the positive first. Journaling about one positive experience you've had over the past 24 hours allows your brain to relive it. Exercise teaches your brain that your behavior matters. We find that meditation allows your brain to get over the cultural ADHD that we've been creating by trying to do multiple tasks at once, allows our brains to focus on the task at hand. And finally, random acts of kindness or conscious acts of kindness. We get people, when they open up their inbox, to write one positive email, praising or thanking somebody in their social support network. And by doing these activities and by training your brain, just like we train our bodies, what we found is we can reverse the formula for happiness and success. And in doing so, not only create ripples of positivity, but create a real revolution. Thank you very much.
Okay, guys. Let me get my camera back if I can figure out how to do it. Start video. Okay, so either on chat or unmute yourself and talk. I would love someone to unmute themselves. You can be on camera as well if you want. You don't have to not have your cameras going. I'm going to give my feedback, but I'm only going to give my feedback after 3 people have commented. So I need 3 people to take something that they learned from that video, either talk about it, share it in chat, and I'll read it. Or it's going to get weird because we're going to sit here for another 25 minutes in absolute silence. So someone needs to overcome the chimp and talk. Let's go.
I learned that we should focus on the positives.
Awesome. And let me ask you this, Olivia. Firstly, thank you for speaking up. Let me ask you this. How good are you at focusing on the positives for your golf after you've played? Where does your mind normally go?
I think I'm getting better at it, because I used to be really bad at it.
Great.
But I think I'm better at it. But I feel like my mind normally goes to like the score, like how well I did. But like I probably shouldn't do that.
Awesome. Let me ask you this then. Let's follow up. How well do you do it in your life? Are you very positive with like the things that you focus on in your life, like your health, or that
Yeah.
you have a good mindset when it comes to your life? You're very like grateful and positive.
Yeah.
Okay, awesome. If you needed to develop in that area, what could you do? What would be the practical exercise that maybe you could do that he suggested in that TED talk? Can you remember? You can see me on video, right? There's a clue. What did he suggest doing?
Write it down.
Pretty much, yeah, journaling. Every day you can journal certain things that you're grateful for. Or every day you could write you could reframe something to be a positive. So one thing that I would like to see, I'd love some of you to have that as a how goal on your vision boards, maybe, only if you want to. But that's a very, very good thing to work towards, being more positive, being more grateful, and a daily journal can definitely help with that. So that might be something that you may want to include on your vision boards. Olivia, thanks for speaking up. Okay, 2 more. Someone just can chat to me if they enjoyed that video, if they disagreed with it. 2 more people. Okay, here we go. I think we have 1. Okay, great. Daniel, I'm going to share your name because it's a great point. So Daniel, if you don't know Daniel, he's relatively new to the academy. Introduce yourself next time you see him up at KOHR. Daniel wrote that if you focus on the average, you stay average. The reason that I love that is because that's what we're not doing at KOHR. What, how, why goals. Average people don't set those. Average people don't set those. Average people focus on the process. Okay? The way that we're practicing, not beating golf balls, only having 5 balls at a time and changing task. The average person doesn't do that. Course management, really thinking about your shot, aiming away from danger, being smart, having a great pre-shot routine. The average junior golfer, the average academy student, they don't do that. Everything that we're building at KOHR is not based on averages. It's based on what the absolute best and most successful and happiest people do in the world. So Daniel, thank you for bringing that up, because that led nicely into my point. If sometimes you start thinking to yourself, well, all the other golfers I know, they don't do this, or all the other golf academies, they don't teach this, I would recommend looking at it from a standpoint of not doing what everyone does. Do what the elite do. Model the behaviors of the best of the best. And I guarantee if you look at the players, Luke List, for example, or Will Zalatoris, if anyone watched the golf yesterday, they are journaling. They are writing things down. Away from the golf course, they're very grateful for what they have. A lot of tour players meditate. Most tour players exercise. So everything that came off Sean Acker's list, it's not what average people do. It's what people who achieve excellence do. And that's what we're building at KOHR. Daniel, great observation. Anyone else? 1 more person. Okay, Tristan, let's go. I see the hand.
I like the moment where he said that the wellness week was actually a sickness week because they're focusing on the negative and not the positive.
And you think that's a good message for the world we live in, the world we've lived in over the last 2 and a bit years?
Yeah, because I feel like for like the past 2 years at least, like I think we've all just been focusing on the negative, not on the positive.
Awesome. So, and I want to interject, and Tristan, stay off mute. There's 31 of you on this Zoom. Before I came down here, I said to my wife, I'd be happy if we got 12. 31. That is amazing. So I'm very grateful that you guys took time, and I'm very happy that you guys joined this Zoom call, because I went maybe a little bit to the negative, my voice, oh, no one's going to join. And then 31 of you joined. And then I look at my phone, and the answers that you guys are giving are unbelievable. People on that test, 9 questions, most of you are scoring 8, 7. Really, really, really good knowledge. Tristan just picked up something off that video. Excellent knowledge. Tristan watched that video. He picked up something very powerful. But Tristan, how do you take it that next step further? And how do you make the actual practical change in your life? If you want to be more positive, the danger is we end this call, you have the knowledge, I want to be more positive, but you have to physically or practically apply something. So based on that video, or based what you've been learning at KOHR, what could be something that you would apply?
Maybe when I find myself, maybe after like a round of golf, if I find myself thinking about like a bad shot that maybe ruined my score a bit, that I'll just try to stop thinking about that and focus on like maybe a good hole or a good shot from my round.
Okay, and then take it one step further. Just one step further. How could you do that? How could you really make that real? Think back to Olivia. Think back to what you could do this in Coach Now. You could do it on our
Just journaling.
Journaling. And this is the thing, right? This is the key message that comes from that talk. The score isn't going to make you happy, because that's always going to change. True happiness will be found in the habits that you create. So Tristan, if you don't shoot a very good score, but after the round you go and journal and you write down all your good shots and you write down what you learned, that is scientifically proven to make you happy. That is more of a internal motivator. So it's going to last longer. It's going to be more powerful. It's going to be more likely to help you deal with adversity than the external motivator of shooting a good score and getting high fives off everyone. So when you create your vision boards, understand true happiness, true fulfillment, true motivation. It doesn't lie in the outcomes. It lies in the processes. And that's not me saying that. That's me understanding the research and the science of people like Sean Acker, who wrote the book, The Happiness Advantage. Okay. Does anyone else have a question? Tristan, that was awesome. Thank you. If no one else has a question, what I would like to do is, I would like us to end the Zoom unless you have a question you want to ask me in private about your vision boards. And before you log off, we'll log back in at 11, where we're going to talk about golf practice. But before you log off, I want everyone to know, based on the snow and based on this Zoom session and based on the answers that you're giving, I think by week 5, the end of week 5 or the beginning of week 5, everyone should be completing their vision boards. So I really want to put a deadline on this. Once vision boards are completed, we can move on to pre-shot routine and we can move on to golf's mental game. But we're not moving on until we have 70 vision boards complete to a high level and stuck on the windows in the gym, so that we're creating a culture that helps each other focus on the process and focus on the motivation And we can be aware of each other's outcomes, but at KOHR Golf, that's not where we live. Okay, so does anyone have a problem with finishing their vision board by week 5, the end of week 5? If you do, stay online and tell me. If you don't, log off now, work on your vision board, get the pictures, email it to me, put it in Coach Now, bring it to KOHR next week. I'll print it, I'll laminate it, and we'll start creating an environment like no other junior golf academy in the world. Okay, so I'll stay here. As people log off, that's fine. I'll see you back on at 11. If you want to stay and talk, let's stay and talk. I'll just hang out for now. And thanks everyone for coming. That was awesome.
Thanks, Ian.
Thanks, guys.
Ian, I have a question.
Fire away, dude.
How many goals should we have like on it?
So I don't mind, as long as every time you set an outcome goal,
Yeah.
so like I want to get this grade, as long as there's some processes there, as long as the grade isn't just I need to be an A student. I want to know how. I would like to how.
Because right now I have 4, and I'm just like wondering if we need to have like more than a certain amount.
Are they all outcomes?
No, I have I put them in like a rows. So I have like my outcome, and then I have under it my how, and then under the how I have my why.
So is it 4 outcome goals, or is it just 4 pictures total?
It's 4 outcome goals, and then each one has the how and the why.
Sounds great, dude. I would run with that. Get the pictures, email it to me, text it me, whatever you need. Let's talk about it in class on Sunday. And if you can't be there, send me a text of it. I'm just chilling today. I'm going to try and reply to every single person that texts me today. So you can send me a picture of your vision board and I can give you some information, or you can log it into Coach Now. But I think it's great that you've done it. I would spend time with your parents, informing them of what we're doing, explaining it to them, telling them where your focus is going to be. The home environment is so important. I think your parents would love to have that conversation with you. So now this task is almost complete. Start sharing it with people, start putting it out there. But what you've done, 4 outcomes, hows and whys, sounds perfect to me.
All right. Thank you so much.
No worries. See you soon.
Ian, I have a question about why goals.
Yep.
I feel like my why goal, like I have a few, but they're not really, I'd say, legit. And the thing that really motivates me is score, like a lot.
Yep.
Especially on the golf course. And I'm just trying to move away from that, but I'm not really sure how to.
Okay, so what does a good score do for you? What does a good score get you?
It makes me happy. Like I enjoy scoring well, just like internally, like not even anybody else thinking about it.
So what kind of feelings, explain those internal, those happy feelings.
It makes me feel like I'm a good golfer. I don't know any other way to explain it. It makes me like satisfied with the way I play.
So if you played the best golf ever for 17 holes and then had a really bad hole, would you find no satisfaction in that? Or would you feel like a good golfer because you did a great job for 17 holes?
I mean, I don't even know if I'd have satisfaction from that. If it all depends on score for me, and I don't like it, but that's kind of how it is, like depending on how bad it is.
Okay. So I think one thing, when we move on to a bit more of the pre-shot routine stuff, if you're really motivated by score, when you go out onto the golf course, you should have a scorecard for your routine. And we should be saying, these are the 3 steps that your routine, the key steps in your routine. And after every shot, you give them a score. And then what we're going to try and do is we're going to try and break our record score for routine rather than try and break our record score for number of strokes.
Okay.
So we're going to reframe the scores that you're chasing. Does that make
Yes.
sense?
That makes sense. Yeah, I'd love that because
Yeah, and this has worked for players on the European tour that I've coached playing for millions of euros.
Mhm.
So if it can work for them when they've had no money and all of a sudden they've got shots that are worth 90,000 euros, 100,000 euros, if they can take the time and score their scorecard, and that's the score that they report to me, and that's the score that we're working towards breaking and that motivates us, what we're doing is we're taking your outcome focus and putting it's still an outcome, but it's a process that's going to get you the outcome score that you'd like. It's just more controllable, right? You know the basics of that
Yeah.
education. So we're going to talk a lot about that over the next few weeks once the vision board stuff is done. I don't want, as an academy, I don't want us to move on until we've achieved this team unity and things like that with regards to the vision boards. Okay.
Awesome. Yeah.
All right,
thank
dude.
you.
No worries.
I have a question about actually making the vision board because I have all these pictures, like one after the other in a notes document. But
Yeah.
the one that you showed in the office or
Yeah.
wherever, they were like side by side, some are bigger than others.
Yeah.
I'm also not good at technology too, so that doesn't help.
Okay.
I don't know how to do that.
Let me show you. Hopefully this will open. Let me share my screen. Oh, this is Coles, right? So I'll just share my screen. And Kylie, whenever you say you're not good at something,
I have potential to get better at it.
say yeah.
No.
Say, yeah, I'm not good at technology yet.
Yeah.
Um,
It's something okay with not being good at though.
Slides.
Yeah.
So look, this is what I actually was doing it on Word. And then Cole Turner, this is Cole Turner's. Cole did his on PowerPoint. So much easier to move around, right?
Mm-hmm.
I just ruined Cole's board, but oh, simple. But you can even have that one in front of all, like you could have a background, like you can get really creative with it. Okay. And I know, even though you might not be where you want to be with technology yet, an old man like me shouldn't be out technology in someone who's at a very prestigious school and wants to maybe go and be a surgeon, right? You gotta get up to speed on that. So I'm sure you can use PowerPoint, correct?
Yeah, I think I can figure that one out.
You can have PowerPoint.
Yeah, Google Slides I'll use.
There we go. Easy. Okay.
All right.
So perfect.
Thank
I look
you.
forward to seeing it. And I'm going to hold you to a high standard on this, right? I think this is a big task for you to complete. You generally, your feedback is amazing when you feedback on Coach Now. Your mindset, desire to overcome adversity is very strong. So when I look at yours, I may be looking at yours, and obviously Zach's on this call, maybe looking at your two guys a little differently to some of the younger people. I might be holding you to a slightly higher standard just because of where your goals and dreams are. Okay?
Thank
All right,
you.
perfect. Thanks, Kylie.
Thank you.
Mr. Pelzar?
Ian, I'm kind of struggling with you said it was fine if I did like 2 vision boards. I like my first one with like the what and the how.
Yeah.
But I'm struggling on the why. Like how do I don't really know how to put it into pictures.
Okay. So first and foremost, you're 16, right?
Yeah.
Even just asking yourself this question at 16, trying to have a conversation in your own mind about this stuff is very powerful. So you're streets ahead of your fellow competitors and other 16-year-olds in the world. Not many 16-year-olds are talking to themselves about their internal drive and internal motivation. And I'm 40 and I still struggle some days. Why am I doing this? So don't worry too much about like this being the why for your whole life. I think when we do this again next year, because every year we're going to reset our goals. Your motivations might have shifted a little bit. You'll have grown, you'll have matured, you'll have been in different environments. That's going to shape you as a person. So first and foremost, it doesn't have to be perfect, and it doesn't necessarily even have to be this, like, it's not going to turn you from a cat into a lion like immediately, right? This is ongoing work. It takes a long time. So that would be my first piece of feedback. Why don't you explain more what your why is, or what you think it is, and why you're struggling with the images a little bit?
All right. Well, I kind of have like 4 things written down. The first one is like be as good as I can be, like figure out how good I can get. The second one is like know that I put like 100% in and like did everything that I could be to be as good as I can be.
Yeah.
The third one is like prove everyone wrong who said I can't. Like, I know you said that one. I acknowledge that one's probably not the best one, but
It's not the best, but it's not bad
still in
either.
there. And then the last one was for my grandparents, because I really want to like make them proud and like make them happy, because they follow me a lot, and I'm like, yeah.
Awesome. So what level do you want to play at?
I want to be the best golfer in the world.
You want to be
Best
the
golfer
best?
to ever do it.
So let's say you get there. What will that do for you? How will that make you feel when you look at those things on the page? What words spring to mind? Because what you've got very sort of, you've almost written outcomes again, right? Your whys are almost outcomes. So what you're doing is you're not quite tapping in to how they're going to make you feel. What will that do for you? What will that get you? Like, why is it important to be the best you can be? Being the best you can be does what for you as a human?
Like satisfaction.
There you go. So now we're taking these very sort of, this is what I want to do, and we're putting more emotive, more feeling, more intrinsically stimulating words to that.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
I think so.
So also as well, like a little bit of imagination. What was your first one? Because something struck me when you said that first sentence.
Like trying to be as good as I can be, see how good I can be. Like,
and what was the second one?
Prove people wrong.
No, I think that was third. You said something before then.
Oh, the third one was like know that I put 100% in, like did everything that I could.
Okay, yeah. So putting in 100%, proving people wrong. What does that give you inside? Working hard. And do you know anyone who has these qualities? So someone who springs to mind when you're talking about these is like Kobe, because he was in Italy, wasn't that good a basketball player, but he had these motivations. So you could also use pictures of other people. You know, the guy that I showed you on the TED Talk, I think his work is so valuable to this world. It's not like I want to be Sean Acker, and having a picture of him on my vision board probably wouldn't motivate me. But the cover of his book or the research papers that he's written, putting them as part of my how or part of my why, like that pulls me forward. So there's some pictures on my vision board that you won't even understand, right? You wouldn't even know what they meant.
Yeah.
So I would say 2 things: really digging into those sentences and finding the intrinsically motivating words like satisfaction, happiness, fulfillment, drive, whatever words like really sort of resonate with you. And then I would also be looking, maybe just be really imaginative, really creative, trying to think of things that, you know, I'm just going to try and pull my vision board up very quickly.
Okay.
And I'll share my screen with you. You can see that, Zach, right?
Yep.
So like, do you know what that means?
No.
No. Do you know what that means?
No.
No. So this is creative, right? To me, this picture represents creativity. That's how I sometimes feel my brain has these ideas in, and I want to get them down on paper, and I want to share my ideas with the world. So that's what that picture represents.
Yeah.
This picture, that's my wife's favorite film, and I want to be a good husband. And in that scene, he says like lines to her. So that reminds me of those lines that she likes, and that's in that moment being like this guy is a good thing to be. This is my mobile phone. I don't want my phone to be in my hand all the time when I'm at home. So I pretend that my mobile phone is one of these old phones and I always have it on charge.
Yeah.
I'm not always the best at, but after speaking with you and after reminding myself of this, I'll be better at it. That's the idea of the vision board. So imagination, dude, get super imaginative with those pictures. Super creative, super imaginative, and dig in deep to how those pictures are going to make you feel. All right.
All right. I'll do my
All right.
best.
Perfect. Thanks, Zach. I'm
All right.
gonna let everyone else back in now because we're going to talk a little bit about practice.
All right.
Okay.